juggling a million things while somehow maintaining this, like, perfect work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot.
Definitely.
That pressure cooker can lead to, well, burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we're going to be unpacking today.
Right. We're taking a deep dive into this research paper, and the title is Burnwood, Burnout and Young Staff, Understanding Causes, Impact, and Solutions.
Catchy.
Yeah.
But it's packed with these, like, really amazing insights that can help you or someone you know recognize burnout in the first place.
Right.
Understand why it's happening.
Yeah.
And most importantly, figure out what you can actually do about it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so first things first. What exactly is burnout?
Right.
It's more than just, like, feeling tired, right?
Right. Definitely. This paper defines burnout as emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion.
Oh, wow, 3.
Caused by prolonged stress. So it's not just a bad day or tough week at work. It's this sustained state of feeling drained on like multiple levels.
So have you been feeling any of those types of exhaustion lately? Maybe you're emotionally drained, physically wiped out, or mentally just fried?
Yeah, any of those.
Could be signs
Absolutely.
that you might be dealing with burnout.
It's important to remember, burnout isn't this one-size-fits-all experience.
Right.
It can manifest differently for everybody.
Okay, so let's get into the WHY. Like, what's causing all this burnout, especially in young professionals? This research paper pinpoints 5 key culprits. High expectations, the blurring of work and life,
Right.
that nagging sense of job insecurity,
Yeah.
dealing with, let's be honest, difficult bosses,
Oh, yeah.
and surprisingly, the pressure cooker of social media.
Interesting how each of these causes connects to the pressures young professionals face today. Like take high expectations, for example. Think back to your first job.
Yeah.
Were you expected to just hit the ground running, be an expert right away?
Sink or swim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of pressure can be a major contributor to burnout,
Yeah.
especially when you're still learning the ropes.
Yeah, I remember my first job out of college, my boss just threw me into the deep end with this huge project and, like, almost no guidance.
Wow.
It was sink or swim. And I definitely felt that pressure to prove myself. And looking back, I can totally see how that, contributed to feeling burned out.
That's a perfect example of how those high expectations can set the stage for burnout. And it doesn't help that technology has blurred the lines between work and personal life. You're expected to be available 24/7, answering emails at all hours, constantly checking in. That's that work-life blur in action. And it can be incredibly draining. In fact, this paper cites a study by the University of California, Irvine. And they found that employees who were expected to be available outside of work hours experienced significantly higher levels of stress and burnout.
Can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
It's like you never truly get a break. You're always on.
Right.
But hey, at least we have, job security these days.
Well, not quite. Job insecurity is actually a huge problem, especially with the rise of like the gig economy and contract work. Not knowing, what's next, or if you'll even have a steady paycheck, can create chronic stress and anxiety.
That makes total sense. And speaking of stress, let's not forget about the impact of, bad bosses.
Oh, yeah.
We've all had them, right?
We have.
The micromanagers,
Mm-hmm.
the ones who never offer support, the credit stealers.
Mm.
I once had this boss who would schedule meetings for 7:00 a.m. on Mondays,
Oh, wow.
just to make a point.
Oof.
It was brutal.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as the research highlights, poor management is a significant driver of burnout. Lack of support, unclear communication, and yes, micromanagement can create a toxic work environment that just fuels those feelings of exhaustion and disillusionment.
Yeah, it's true. A bad boss can make even the, most enjoyable job feel unbearable.
For sure.
So we've got high expectations, blurred work-life boundaries, job insecurity, and terrible managers.
Right.
But what's this about social media contributing to burnout?
Well, it might seem like a stretch, but social media can actually play a significant role in creating those feelings of inadequacy
Okay.
and fueling burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. You're constantly bombarded with these curated versions of people's lives. Their perfect jobs, their amazing vacations.
It's like everyone else is thriving, and you're just trying to keep your head above water.
Exactly. It's easy to fall into the comparison trap and start feeling like you're not doing enough or achieving enough, especially, early in your career.
And what's really sneaky is that it becomes this vicious cycle. You feel burned out, so you scroll through social media for a distraction.
Right.
But then you end up feeling even worse
Yeah.
because everyone else seems to be, killing it.
Yeah. Right. It's like adding fuel to the fire.
Right.
This paper argues that this constant pressure to measure up, which is fueled by social media, can really damage your self-esteem and ultimately contribute to burnout.
So is that a pretty clear picture of what burnout is and why it's happening?
Yeah.
But how does this actually show UP in our lives?
Right.
What are the signs and symptoms we should be looking out for? We'll dive into that right after.
That's good.
So we talked about what burnout is and some of the factors that contribute to it. But now let's get into the HOW. Like, how does burnout actually show up in our day-to-day lives?
Well, this paper breaks down the symptoms of burnout into three main categories: emotional, performance-related, and physical.
Okay.
And within each category, there are some specific red flags to watch out for.
Okay, so let's start with the emotional symptoms. What are some of the things that people might experience in this category?
One of the most common emotional symptoms is a loss of interest in things you used to enjoy. So maybe you're no longer excited about your hobbies, you're withdrawing from social events, or even just spending time with loved ones feels draining.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. It's like, you're just going through the motions and nothing really sparks joy anymore.
Right. And it's not just a matter of being too busy. It's a deeper sense of apathy and detachment, a loss of that spark that used to make you feel, alive.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not just about, having a packed schedule. It's about feeling emotionally exhausted and disconnected. Okay, so what about performance-related symptoms? How might burnout affect our work?
Well, burnout can really take a toll on your productivity and the quality of your work.
Right.
You might find yourself making more mistakes, struggling to focus, or just procrastinating on even the simplest tasks.
Yeah, it's like your brain is just fried and you can't seem to get anything done.
Exactly. And the paper highlights that this isn't because you're suddenly incompetent. It's that burnout is robbing you of your cognitive resources, making it harder to think clearly and effectively.
That makes a lot of sense. And I imagine this can have some pretty serious consequences, especially depending on, your line of work.
Absolutely. The research actually points to a study that found that surgeons who reported high levels of burnout were more likely to make medical errors.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just about feeling tired or stressed. Burnout can have real-world implications.
That's a sobering thought. Okay, so let's talk about the physical symptoms of burnout. These are often the hardest to ignore, right?
They really are. We're talking about things like chronic fatigue, headaches, muscle tension, and difficulty sleeping. You might also find yourself getting sick more often because burnout can weaken your immune system.
Yeah, it's like your body is just screaming at you to slow down.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that these symptoms often creep up gradually. You might not notice them at first, but over time they can become more and more debilitating. That's why early recognition is so crucial.
So let's say you're listening to this and you're realizing, wow, I actually relate to a lot of these symptoms. What's the next step? Why is it so important to address burnout?
Well, ignoring burnout won't make it go away.
Right.
In fact, it can lead to some pretty serious consequences, both for your personal well-being and your professional life. This paper highlights reduced productivity, increased turnover rates, and most concerningly, a higher risk of mental health challenges.
So it's not just about, feeling tired and stressed. Burnout can have a ripple effect across your entire life.
It absolutely can. And one of the most important things to understand is that burnout is not a sign of weakness. It's a real condition that deserves attention and care, just like any other, health concern.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message. We need to destigmatize mental health and normalize seeking help when we're struggling. Now, the good news is this paper doesn't just outline the problem of burnout. It also offers some practical solutions.
Right, and we'll dive into those solutions in detail in the next part of our deep dive. But for now, just remember this. Burnout is a serious issue, but it's not insurmountable. There are things you can do to prevent it, manage it, and ultimately create a more sustainable and fulfilling, work life.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not about accepting burnout as the inevitable price of success. It's about finding ways to prioritize our well-being and create a more balanced life. We'll be right back with more on those solutions after a quick break.
Welcome back to our deep dive into burnout. We've explored what it is, the factors that contribute to it, and even, how it shows up in our lives.
Right.
But now, let's get to the part you've all been waiting for.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. What can we actually do about it? Well, the good news is this paper outlines some really practical, effective solutions for combating burnout, both for individuals and workplaces.
Okay.
Because let's be honest, it's a two-way street.
Exactly. We can't put all the responsibility on individuals to fix a problem that's often rooted in, the culture of work itself.
Right.
So let's start with what you can do to protect your well-being.
Hmm.
Even in a really demanding work environment, this research highlights 3 key strategies: setting boundaries, taking breaks, and seeking support.
Yeah, those might sound, simple, but honestly, they can be game changers.
Yeah.
Let's start with boundaries.
Okay.
You know that feeling of guilt when you say no to work requests outside of, business hours?
Yeah.
This paper argues that setting clear boundaries is crucial for preventing burnout.
It's like we've been conditioned to think that being always on is a badge of honor, but honestly, it's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly, and it's not about being lazy or disengaged. It's about protecting your time and energy so that you can actually, show up as your best self, both at work, A&D, in your personal life.
Yeah.
This paper actually offers a helpful script for setting those boundaries.
Okay, I like this.
Imagine saying to your boss, I'll be checking emails less frequently after 6 p.m., to recharge and come back fresh tomorrow.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
It's direct, it's professional, and it sets that expectation right from the start.
exactly.
Now, what about taking breaks? I think a lot of us struggle with this. That feeling like we can't step away from our desks when we're swamped.
Right. It's a common misconception.
Yeah.
We often think that powering through, without breaks is the most productive approach.
Mm-hmm.
However, research actually shows that taking short breaks throughout the day can boost productivity. Like a study published in the Journal of Applied Psychology found that workers who took 5-minute breaks every hour were 13% more productive than those who didn't.
So it's not about slacking off. It's about, giving your brain a chance to rest and recharge.
Sure.
Even just stepping outside for a few minutes or listening to some music.
Right. Even those micro breaks
Yeah.
can have a significant impact on your focus and energy levels.
Okay.
And the last individual strategy the paper emphasizes is seeking support.
Yeah, this is such a crucial point. We need to normalize talking about mental health and reaching out for help when we're struggling.
I couldn't agree more. It's not a sign of weakness to seek support. Think of it like going to the doctor for a physical ailment.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't hesitate to see a professional if you had a broken leg, right?
Exactly. And it's the same for your mental health. Therapy, counseling, can provide you with the tools and strategies you need to navigate stress, anxiety, and burnout.
It's about, investing in your well-being and giving yourself the support that you deserve.
So those are some really powerful strategies for individuals.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned earlier, workplaces have a huge role to play in addressing burnout.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that companies can do to create a more supportive environment?
Well, this paper outlines 3 key areas for organizations to focus on: flexible work arrangements, a supportive culture, and career development opportunities.
Okay.
And what's great about these solutions is that they benefit both the individual and the company.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
Okay, let's start with flexible work. What does that look like in practice?
It could mean offering remote work options, flexible hours, or compressed work weeks. It's about, giving employees more control over their schedules and trusting them to manage their time effectively.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially for younger generations.
Yeah.
Who are prioritizing work-life balance more than ever.
Absolutely. And the research backs this up. Studies have shown that flexible work arrangements can lead to increased productivity, higher job satisfaction, and reduced stress levels.
So it's not just about being nice, it's about creating a work environment that supports, employees' well-being. And drives those business results.
Right.
Now, what about building a supportive culture? What does that entail?
Well, it goes beyond just having, ping pong tables and free snacks.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment where employees feel valued, respected, and supported by their managers, by their colleagues. It means fostering open communication, providing regular feedback, and creating opportunities for collaboration and connection.
It's about creating a sense of community belonging, which I think is especially important in today's, increasingly remote and digital world.
Absolutely. And finally, we have career development. When employees feel like they're learning, growing, and progressing in their careers, they're less likely to experience burnout.
Yeah, it's about feeling challenged, feeling engaged, seeing a path forward, having opportunities to learn and develop new skills.
Exactly. So this means offering, training programs, mentorship opportunities, and clear pathways for advancement. It's about investing in your employees and helping them, reach their full potential.
And remember that earlier point about, poor management being a major cause of burnout? Well, good leadership is essential for implementing all of these workplace solutions.
That's right. Managers need to be trained to recognize the signs of burnout,
Hmm.
to support their team members' well-being, and to create a culture that prioritizes mental health.
It's about leading by example and showing that, well-being is a top priority. So as we wrap up this deep dive into burnout, I want to leave you with this. You deserve to work in a place that values your well-being.
Absolutely.
And if you're not currently in that environment, don't be afraid to advocate for change.
Yeah. Speak up. Set those boundaries. Prioritize your, mental and physical health.
Hmm.
Remember, you're not alone in this. Burnout is a widespread problem,
Hmm.
but it's one that we can solve, together.
By raising awareness, changing the conversation, and demanding better from our workplaces,
Right.
we can create a future where work is not a source of chronic stress and exhaustion,
Mhm.
but a source of, fulfillment and meaning.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
We hope you found it insightful and empowering.
Take care, everyone.
Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care